Black Baseball League. Let's get that straight. Oh, they preferred to be called the Negro Baseball League. So how long did that? Okay, seven relatively success. They made a lot of money starting in 1920 because they weren't allowed to play with white people. They had to pass a law with Jackie Robinson, the famous baseball player, has his, I think he's number 42, has his number retired on all baseball teams. Passed a law, Jesse can play with the white people. Freed the slaves in 1865, and Abraham Lincoln got killed because a lot of people were super mad. He freed the slaves, but then the KKK, President Wilson showed that movie about the KKK in the White House, and he was quoted in it. And so he was obviously on board with the lost cause of the Confederacy. They passed laws that reestablished the one drop rule. And I can't get any idea of when. They just tell us that the one drop rule was a legal principle of racial classification, that it was, I guess it was,
Unwritten law. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't everywhere in the United States, but it was prominent.
Yeah, they honored it.
But okay, it asserted that the African ancestry, anybody that descends from them, regardless of the proportion in different groups. Okay, well, that just tells you what is hypodescent. It doesn't say it was a legal principle of racial classification prominent in the United States. Where's the footnote? Where does it say? Because of this law, because it was passed by the reestablishment of the One Drop Rule Act. Every time, you know, they have laws, they do that. They tell
Well,
you,
it may have been more prominent in the secret societies that were honoring uh, that detail.
you got to get some of
Uh,
those guys in those secret
possibly.
societies that said, what is it? Why did those people? Here's what is when I say they don't like to leave pennies on the table, I'm usually talking about the people that were going to blow up the World Trade Centers, all seven of them, and they couldn't pass up a few measly $1 million in short selling American airline stocks. And they still won't release who those people were. But they can't, if there's a penny on the table, they want it. They.
Well, it should belong to someone, and it may as well be them. Yeah.
So they decided that let's start a Negro baseball league. We can discriminate and not like them, and they can't drink at our fountains or be at our
Well, yeah,
movies,
yeah, they
but
would
they
get
can play some ball.
yeah, support. Yeah, if they can create a cash flow,
Cash
and I'm
flow
sure it
is.
did.
Yeah, if they were relatively successful. So
You would
they
get
just said,
investors in that gig. Yeah.
yeah. And then they had all of those people. Remember what they would do? They would pass as white. They pretend they wanted to
Worth a
act like,
shot.
yeah, because
Worth a
because
shot.
they're being
Oh, it's
discriminated
not a
against.
jab.
Who wouldn't if you? I mean, they're white people that were bred to look white so they could still be slaves so that other white people could rape them
And
and
own
say,
them, and yeah.
yeah, and when you're done being raped, go make my wife's bed and fix her dinner. Okay, dad, call me master. Okay. Because they're breeding them to be sold to go, look, we get, you want a white slave? We got him. The market is here, baby. So who do they want
Yep.
to make the money? The first known baseball game between two black teams was held November 15th in 1859. Okay. Were they playing just only two teams, or did they play other white teams? Wonder what they were doing in their cricket leagues. When did the world accept eugenics? I know that the Nazis got the one drop rule and learned about segregation and the caste system
Was that through
from
the power of suggestion, or they figured that out on their own?
people underestimate the Darwinism. As soon as you bring in, there's no creator, there's survival of the fittest, there's it's a race of evolution.
Anything
it-
goes. Yeah.
Anything goes. And so racial mixtures in America, it's like you can't stop it. Where is that? I know that they have the thing that leads it to.
Oh, so that actress there declared herself black, and so she had some genetics.
More than Elizabeth Warren, who tried to who went didn't she get a free education because she said she was Native American? So
Yeah, I couldn't care less, but whether it's
Jim
true or
Crow
not is.
laws reached their greatest influence. So they are narrowing it down because Jim Crow laws are pretty bad. And maybe we
Yeah,
could look that up. But they were
yeah,
passed
they had a purpose, and we know what that was. Yeah,
right to reestablish the one drop rule and teach Germany how to hate the Jews and hate the blacks and realize it's all white power. We taught them that.
yeah, substitute. Yeah, whoever, whatever class or race of individuals you're trying to
The good
limit.
news is the good news is that not everybody did it. But listen to this catch. During the same time, these states, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Utah, they retained their old style blood faction of de jure, but amended it to say, well, okay, we're going to allow 1/16 or 1/32. So they're going all about, we got too many people that,
To be equivalent
yeah.
to a single
So
drop.
when the Mormons showed up in the Utah area, there was a little too much mingling going on. And so they want to
Well, I
drop it
know when
down.
it comes to reparations for Native Americans, they only take it to the 16th, but that's it. There's no 32nd.
Just the same thing.
Well,
Or,
but for different reason. You know, that's
yeah, right. But the
totally different,
takeaway,
totally different. Agenda as far as their intentions and motivation.
my takeaway on it is they passed these laws between 1910 and 1930. The takeaway is these states didn't need to pass racial laws, they already had them.
Yeah,
And they thought they were strict enough. And so they're not talking about these states said no, these states already had their racial laws. And they said, we're working with this. These states had too many mixed people. They wanted to keep it 1/16. That's the takeaway to me. No, Jim Ray, the Jim Crow laws, what's the problem with them? Okay, again, vague. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, they enforced them. This isn't going to, I guess there's a, maybe you could look it up. The last of the Jim Crow laws were, it doesn't say
but
finally,
yeah, that
generally.
breaks down as 4 generations to a 16th. From half to
Okay.
quarter to eighth. If you're not
So
intermarrying with,
they don't want Brigham
or
Young's
not marrying.
family tested.
Marrying
And
has nothing to do with it, but yeah,
yeah, there's somebody high up in the Mormon thing from 4 generations ago that they don't want tested.
probably.
Southern laws were enacted by redeemers. to disenfranchise and remove political and economic gains made by African Americans during the Reconstruction era. So we had no, oh, they were, and then they lynched few people. They ran this country, and they covered it up. They freed the slaves and then captured them again in 6 years later with the next president.
Pull up the covers. It's chilly out.
Chile today, hot tamale.
I, yeah, it could change.
It is. If
Uh,
you think, aren't you glad that we solved the racial problems, that we don't have to worry about race wars anymore, and that
Okay.
now we all get along? Because these
Yeah.
guys, that's the
Life is
guy that,
good. Life is good. Yeah.
yeah, they say he worked with the mob to help kill the president so he could be the president. That's what they said.
So
These
yeah.
guys, yeah, they killed him too. They called him a commie and said, "You should kill yourself or we'll kill you." He goes, "I don't want to kill myself." Okay, we'll do it.
All in due time. Yeah.
So what were some of the? It's just bad. It's just bad. I don't know
Go
if
from
I should
bad to
read
worse.
my paper or go to my college website and see what I had. Here's the guy, George McCullen. He had, you know how
Got a
come
cold
Abraham,
hand.
you know how come Abraham Lincoln had to appoint him the head of the Potomac Army, the head of the Union Army, and not Grant right away?
He was
He,
forced.
yep,
Hmm?
kind of, because he needed to win the midterm elections. And did you know
Yeah.
that all of the Confederate states owned slaves? Everybody in
Right.
the
Yeah.
chat room right now, there's over a dozen of you. Put in how many Union states was it legal to own a slave until 1865? The Union had slave states, and they needed those voters to vote Republican because they were, and the Democrats, of which General George B. McClellan ran against President Lincoln because he thought they were going too far in freeing the slaves, was the head of the army in 1862 until the midterms. Then he got fired because it's always
Yeah.
been politics, man.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Yeah. But then, yeah, why the state rights would continue in the uh, North Union side versus they wouldn't continue in the Confederate states. Uh,
Because they
that,
withdrew from the Union. They weren't a part of the Constitution anymore, I guess. Is that not the answer?
I
So
like the I like the gloves. Was he a welder? No. Yeah,
is
yeah.
that the same picture, or is that just the way he poses?
I'm wondering what's going on underneath that dress. It
Oh, they're faking
was a cover.
cannons
Oh, it's a
there.
cover up. She was covering herself up. Right.
Ooh.
What was
So
the
he was
ladder there?
famous and he ran for president, and there were abolitionists. They wanted to
Consolidated.
end slavery. And then there were uh, the anti slavery party, some Democrats. They, uh, they just didn't want to end slavery. They just didn't want it to spread to any other states and let them get more votes. That's
That's a
why they were
goofy looking
anti-slavery.
target.
So they've flipped now, the Republicans and Democrats. Well, maybe I think that they've always been on the same team, pulling the wool over our eyes.
You mean two heads on the same serpent? Or what?
Yeah.
What are
What
you
woke
just?
me up to this is neither one. I have two classes with two renowned PhDs. And I went to them and I said, "Have you ever heard of the wide awakes?" Oh, did I just put in too many A's?
Hmm?
The wide awakes. And neither
Oh,
one of them had.
insomnia.
No, they were a group of they were so abolitionists, which means we want to end slavery, and they protected Abraham Lincoln with their torches and their secret society.
Well, where were they when he went to the theater?
Well, he was already elected.
Oh, okay.
They
There,
grew from one little secret thing by Cassius Clay, and they
yeah.
successfully fought off that Democratic Party wearing their black capes and torch bearers, and they ended up only in March,
It was a long march,
right? And it was,
miles and miles.
they wanted to end slavery. They wanted workers to be able to strike to get fair wage,
Hmm?
and and
Oh, a union.
allegedly,
They're,
Abraham Lincoln never heard of him, but he said, "I'm in. I like fair wages,
yeah,
and I'll,
union labor.
if you want
There
to
you go.
protect me, I'll think about freeing the slaves." And they're going like, "No, we're all about freeing the slaves." And he goes, "Well, I can't say that yet. I've got to win the midterms." So
So
they
if
were
you're
a
willing to
markedly,
forfeit some of your wage to the union labor thing cause, and then yeah, you'll have a serious club, and they'll
they
beat
like
you
to,
with it.
they like to dress and march in the military style with their shiny black fabric and the 6 foot torches. Ooh, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how they never heard about him. What's this? Waupun. Little is known about the National Organization of the Wide Awakes, but it's not like the
Well,
John Birch Society in Appleton.
well, the big house is there, and then the other one for the state corrections is also located same address, Waupun, uh, zip
Well,
code.
the PhDs that made a living teaching history and loving, believe me, they love Abraham Lincoln. They never heard of the Wide Awake, so it's being released now. And what they know is that little is known about the national organization. They know they had 200 or so organizations, but they don't know if they had any formal governing body. It's like the damn
Well,
Skull and Bones.
Waupun isn't that far from Ripon, where the
Hey, then
Republican part
I
began.
yeah, I went to that
Proximity may have
Carnegie
something to do with
Library
it.
in Ripon. I think Ripon has a Carnegie Library, and so Waupun is like a suburb of that.
Well, no, Waupun is, you know, uh, less than, I don't know, 20, probably 25 miles, less than 25 miles, 20 miles maybe. I'm not certain on, uh, but it's reasonably close. There's a
That
couple
that
small towns in between,
that
but
horse is as tired as the rider. They're both gonna
yeah,
fall asleep.
yeah, end
Yeah,
of the
that's like the
trail.
Carnegie Library. That's the city hall. All those Wisconsin towns have
Yeah, well, Pon is
so
what the city of statues is what they go by, and there's a number of them,
yeah, okay.
and there's some suspicious looking architecture.
There's
Whether
some
it's the
whiskey
walls, that federal
makers,
prison, that's looks like it's been there an awfully long time.
right? All
you know,
those
when it,
prisons do. So
there-
as
there's
long as
it,
we're on the record that scientific racism, that's just some bullshit. but they
Yeah.
all believed it back then. They're sold lies, and we're not going to get into the lies that people believe today that claim science, but they're usually wrong. They don't know how to classify human populations, but they thought they did, and they were in charge, and they repassed the laws. They made black leagues. It was as bad. They taught Germany. Nobody wants to admit it. That's the cover up. Yeah, it's all involved. It's We're under a dome. They've lied about everything. They showed them a globe from the time that
Well,
they don't even remember the
yeah, but
first globe they saw.
when it comes to genetics, and the whole as far as like Emmanuel, what was his genetics 100%, Hebrew or whatever? Obviously not. In a couple incidences on the maternal
Is there
side,
people that say
what
that Jesus was all white or something? They don't. I mean, he was. Yeah, he was.
no,
And he had a little bit
that's
of
just
that
nonsense.
Moabite.
There-
Moabite.
Well, and whatever Rahab, whatever that implies, um,
Yeah.
also, it wasn't just Ruth
Yeah.
and the line of David included, and yeah, if he was Rudy Red and all that, just like or similar to what, Esau,
That's
maybe
yeah.
not
That's what.
quite as hairy,
Yeah. That
but
that that
whatever.
that he was red, Esau. I mean, that's so sketchy that it
Well,
barely
but does it matter? I mean, maybe it's a descriptive
matters
thing
to
at the.
them. It
Well,
matters to the people that are wrong about a lot of things.
but I'm
That's
just
that
saying,
they
if
make it
you
a
think
big
there's
deal.
some sort of line that's just pure line, I mean, other than, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and
all goes
so they
back to
go
Adam and
against
Eve.
the direct commandment of scriptures that says, "Don't go chasing endless genealogies." And so what do? They try to pull you into endless genealogies.
Muddy the water. So don't drink
Leading
any
up
of that
to
water.
the in closing, we read Hebrews 9 a couple of days ago before my finals and all the other stress this university puts on me got in the way. I wanted us to finish today with Hebrews 8 slowly and let the people understand, please understand that this was written to those people then, and they were basing their eternal salvation on, should I maintain my grip on this plow? Anything you want to add, RJ, before I think I'll read the first seven?
No, I
And
don't
then,
need that anything.
okay, so
Right.
understand this was written to people who had known friends that were dying. Verse 1, Hebrews chapter 8. Now, the point in what we are saying is this: we have such a high priest, one who is seated at the right hand of the throne of majesty in heaven, a minister in the holy places, in the true tent that the Lord set up, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifice. Thus, it is necessary for this priest, they're talking about Jesus now, also to have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are priests who offer gifts according to the law. They serve a copy and a shadow of the heavenly things. For when Moses was about to erect the tent, he was instructed by God, saying, "See that you make everything according to the pattern that was shown to you on the mountain. But as it is, Christ has obtained a ministry that is much more excellent than the old, as the covenant he mediates is better, since it is enacted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion for the second.
Oh, so this is a plan B?
This is,
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah, yeah. Maybe
well,
not.
I guess not. I guess
Well,
some
I mean,
people
it
want to
sounds like
think,
no. Why is he changing it? What's up? What was wrong with what? No, it's a
right.
plan B. Well, yeah, because humanity, yeah, isn't going to comply uh,
Now,
because
if
of sinful
protect, this is
nature.
going back to chapter 7. Now, if perfection could have been attained through that Judeo law they're trying to shove down my throat to this day, why was there still need for another priest to appear? That's not even a word, people. One on the order of Melchizedek and not in the order of Aaron. Well, for when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed.
Yeah, the priesthood, not the priest, the priesthood.
Yeah, the priesthood now has only one continuing eternal priest, and he's never changing. So there's just a short bit left, RJ. You got it?
You mean beginning with 8 here?
Por favor.
For he finds fault with them when he says, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, for they did not continue in my covenant. And so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God. And they shall be my people, and they shall not teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more. In speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete. And what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, we demand that you read that book like every other book, that it was written to those people then, and they trusted him, and they received that blessed first resurrection.